The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 21st chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
When some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, Jesus said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another. All will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be? And what will be the sign that this is about to take place?" And he said, "Beware that you are not led astray. For many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and the time is near. Do not go after them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified. For these things must take place first, but the end will not follow immediately." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes and in various places famines and plagues. And there will be dreadful portents and great signs from heaven. But before all this occurs, they will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prison, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your minds not to prepare your defense in advance. For I will give you words and a wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You'll be betrayed even by parents and brothers, by relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name. But not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your souls." The Gospel of the Lord. So I always need somebody to help me tell stories about Jesus. So this morning it was important for the kids, and for you all, there's this guy that some of you may have heard of. His name is Elon Musk. So he's going to help us learn about Jesus today. In case there is someone out there who doesn't know who Elon Musk is, he is the techno-geek, engineer, entrepreneur, architect of Tesla, which is a cool car company. Now, cars aren't really my thing, which is testified to by the Chevy Traverse that I drive, but I hear that Teslas are pretty cool cars. Elon Musk is also the man behind SpaceX, which is an aerospace manufacturing company whose goal is to send people to Mars by 2024 and cargo to Mars by 2022. So he is quite the visionary. Here are some of his words about traveling to Mars. "You want to wake up in the morning and think that the future is going to be great. And that's what being a spacefaring civilization is all about. It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future is going to be better than the past. And I can't think of anything more exciting than going out there and being among the stars." I mean, those are inspiring words, lofty words, even if you don't want a permanent change of address. You can't help but be in awe of his confidence, ingenuity, and trailblazer ways. Especially when you compare them with Jesus' words today. "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and plagues, and there will be dreadful portents and great signs from heaven. And before all this occurs, they will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name." I mean, give me Elon's words over Jesus's any day, because I do want to wake up in the morning and think the future is going to be great, basking beneath the stars and going on an adventure. And maybe that is what being a spacefaring civilization is all about. The problem is, it doesn't seem to be what being an earth-faring, Jesus-following civilization is all about. Their words paired together create an uncomfortable dichotomy, but one that illustrates life so well. Elon's words are the kinds that make me dizzy with dreams, believe in the future, and make my heart soar. Whereas Jesus' words to us today shrink my heart and tie my stomach in knots and terrify my soul. I feel like the stars are falling to earth rather than hanging as points of hope in the sky. I think that we all know that feeling of helplessness, the fear of the collapse of goodness, the pervasiveness of deep distress within the world. It is the constant drum that accompanies our days. War and violence occupy every inch of the world. We have gotten used to death tolls and natural disasters that should take our breath away. Children die from disease and poverty. Gangs, guns, and drugs are used as a panacea just to survive. Suicide and depression are at all-time highs, and hate has become commonplace. And all of that hardly touches the sharp edges which shape our own personal lives. I don't really want or need Jesus to shine a bright spotlight on the rubble and fragility of life. The carefully airbrushed facade that I've put up gives me the illusion that the world is spinning nicely. Why does he have to toss it in our faces? Well, I will tell you the thing that really confounds my heart, not only about this passage, but when I realize that it illustrates the hardness of life. I start wondering where God has gone. Maybe God had something more important to do in some other corner of the universe and forgot about us here. Or just got tired of bailing us out, and this is their warning to us that they've decided to let the whole human experiment come to an end. Maybe God is in cahoots with Elon Musk. Maybe, right? But only so much as that God is in cahoots with all of us. Basically, God is a straight shooter. Jesus isn't trying to be cruel when he says, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another, all will be thrown down. He is simply telling us the truth. That some of the things we hold most dear will fall apart. Thanks, I guess. I mean, I could have gone my whole life without hearing that. But I actually do need Jesus' words. I do need to hear the truth, even when it's almost intolerable. Because barring an escape pod showing up to whisk me off to Mars, this is where I'm living. This is the place that God created. This is it. I mean, sure, there are more planets, more universes, more possibilities, but not right now. Right now, this is it. This broken world is what we've got. But this broken world is also full of God's grace and love and goodness. Elon's reasonings for heading off into space is based upon what he sees happening around him. He sees a place falling apart that's beyond redemption. He doesn't see a bright future here. He needs to go someplace else to find hope. Now, most of us can't afford Elon's way out. $200,000 per ticket might be doable for some, but it also comes with a hefty price of likely never returning to Earth and living in a bubble colony. It's easy to read the signs of the times as signs of God's absence. But according to Luke's gospel, they are not signs of God's absence, but rather sure and certain signs of God's presence, which also confounds the heart. So while Elon Musk's desire of starting over someplace does have a certain draw, it's not the course of action that Jesus recommends. In fact, he warns us against it. Beware that you're not led astray, he tells those gathered around him. For many will come in my name and say, I am he, and the time is near. Do not go near. Do not go after them. When the sky is falling, do not be terrified. No space pod for us, I guess. But see, the key difference is this. Instead of wanting out, Jesus is all in. Jesus sees that this place is falling apart too, but Jesus knows that this place isn't beyond redemption. And Jesus does see a glorious future here. In fact, Jesus sees this place becoming just like heaven. So if you really do have that desire to bask among the stars, it seems that that's Jesus' desire for here too. What you see is determined by what you have chosen to see, which sounds a little obvious, I know, like some naive, half-full glass kind of philosophy. But that's not what I mean. However, it's true that how we see things influences what we see and what we say, and therefore how we live. In other words, even though Jesus and his followers look at the same temple, they do not see the same thing. When the disciples saw beauty and hope in the temple and the man-made things before them, Jesus saw beauty and hope in the God-made things before him, the disciples, and you and me and humanity itself. As for these things you see, Jesus says, these things that we see, do we see a place to leave behind, a place with no hope, a desolate planet to be recalled in a future Star Wars movie that's become inhabited by Sith Lords? Or are we willing to sit with the fact that things fall apart? Things I love, things I have built, things I cried and prayed and strived for. and still see that God is present among the ruins, and that still is a place brimming with tiny tendrils of hope that need tender care. A place where hope doesn't lie out beyond the stars, but rather in the sparkle of the person sitting next to you. The question may not be, what do you see? But rather, who do you see? Because seeing one another, holding on to one another, trusting that there is more, believing it's not the end, that's how we know that God is still with us. Come earthquakes, come famines, come plagues, come death, come great signs from heaven. We are told to hold on to one another. We are to endure. Because holding on to one another is how we hold on to Jesus. The heavenly song we join, even with faltering voices and broken melodies, is one that has echoed throughout the universe since God hung the stars in the heavens. God presides over the day and the night. Both light and dark are alike to them. That at the break of day, loving mercy will override horror, and hope will break forth in human flesh. God comes among us to exactly where we are. And so with so many apologies to Elon Musk, who probably was just a dreamer and never wanted to be in a sermon, I can actually think of something more exciting than heading off into space. Staying right here with Jesus and creating heaven on stars.